What Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted and why?
I said that on TV. I said prosecutors will be prosecuted to finish the quote, if bad.
I'm sorry, Jack Smith. I almost forgot his name because he's so unimportant these days.
I stood in the breach. I stood alone and told the American people the truth about that.
If we stay on the road we're on right now, less than 10 years, virtually everything that matters to us in life will depend on whether China will allow us to have it or not.
I'm Doug Tenaple in Exile.
Welcome to the Doug Tenaple channel. You guys came to the right place for news. We have four big major news items. The biggest one right now is Pam Bondi. This is Trump's version of Merrick Garland, right? This is to run the Department of Justice. This is the job that Matt Gaetz got out of, removed his name from contention. And now Pam Bondi, this is how smooth she is as she catches the Democrats trying to get her. Don't forget to like, subscribe, make sure that you leave your comment below on what you think. That's the most important part of this whole thing. We want to hear from you. Let's hear from Pam Bondi.
You have said that Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted in the Trump administration. What Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted and why?
I said that on TV. I said prosecutors will be prosecuted to finish the quote, if bad. Investigators will be investigated. You know, we all take an oath, Senator, to uphold the law. None of us are above the law. Let me give you a really good example of a bad lawyer within the Justice Department, a guy named Smith, who altered a FISA warrant, one of the most important things we can do in this country. So will everyone be held to an equal, fair system of justice if I am the next Attorney General? Absolutely. And no one is above the law.
Under what circumstances will you prosecute journalists for what they write?
I believe in the freedom of speech. Only if anyone commits a crime. It's pretty basic, Senator, with anything, with any victim. And this goes back to my entire career for 18 years as a prosecutor and then 8 years as Florida's Attorney General. You find the facts of the case, you apply the law in good faith, and you treat everyone fairly.
Whoa, that's a lesson for Democrats. Wait, is that what the law is for? Treat everyone fairly under the law? And she even quoted back all of the Democrat statements of no one's above the law. Let him argue with that. And he also, notice he left the full quote out, which is a misquote. By the way, it's a lie, when he said that she would, willy-nilly prosecute justice people. And she said, if bad. And he left that if bad part as if she's just there to perform Trump's revenge. That's very important that they had to mischaracterize her to try to get her. That's what the Democrats are doing. Their biggest terror is to have to be subject to the law without political preferences. That's their nightmare.
I'm sorry, Jack Smith. I almost forgot his name because he's so unimportant these days. His claim here. Go ahead, Mike.
Jack Smith is a partisan Scud missile who Democrats launch at Republican presidential candidates. They launched him at Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell when they thought he was going to run in 2016. Jack Smith got reversed 8-0 by the Supreme Court. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away. They brought Jack Smith back from The Hague to go after Trump, and he threw everything he had at President Trump. On this January 6th case in D.C., he had 4 counts. 2 of them got crushed by the Supreme Court's Fisher ruling, and then the overall case got crushed by the presidential immunity ruling. And if Jack Smith actually went to a trial and won a conviction in front of a D.C. Obama judge, Tanya Chutkan, and a 95% anti-Trump jury pool, that would have been reversed by the Supreme Court as well, because it is not a crime to object to a presidential election. It's allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and the First Amendment.
Yeah, that's the big taco this week is Jack Smith, who is already an afterthought. He's releasing documents trying to say that if Trump didn't win the election, we'd have gotten him, which is the whole point of this thing. It was purely political. He's in the past. Now they're just arguing over which of Jack Smith's documents are they allowed to leak or get out to the public to try and undermine Trump, but no one's listening to Jack Smith because he's so obviously a political hack, twisting the law to go after a political opponent. So he gone. The bigger question that Mike Davis brings up is, does Trump have the right to question an election result using the First Amendment? He does. The Democrats don't believe in the First Amendment and free speech. You can argue over whether if Trump crossed a line with going too far, but we've seen Democrats for the last, it's been 28 years now since the Bush election in 2000, 25 years now. We've seen Democrats question election results, propose alternate electors. They did not receive even a hand slap, but no prosecution, no lawsuits. Only when Trump did it once, and they had the majority to be able to pull this off, and they had the media will in 2020 to drum this thing up and try to prosecute Trump on purely a political conviction. It was not bipartisan. It was only anti-Trump people were allowed to see these cases. And I still stand by the right for anyone, including all of the Democrats like Hillary Clinton, Hakeem Jeffries, Maxine Waters. There's a clip around of 45 minutes of Democrats denying election results. They should be allowed to have their free speech and say, we question that Trump won, and you should not go to jail. If you're going to put Trump in jail, then by that standard, you must go to jail. The free speech First Amendment is a foundational under all of that. No one can put someone in jail for their free speech.
What's scary about January 6th, and this prosecution in particular, is that it all presupposes that the 2020 election was just perfect and fair and honest, when we can all see that it was not. Trump believed that he won that election, and he went down multiple avenues to contest the election, and they tried to put him in prison for that. The fake electors, as they called them, was a great example of contesting an election by the book and then being prosecuted for it.
He should not be prosecuted for it. They should have just said, we disagree with you. That's how America works. You come in with your opinion, another person comes in with their opinion, and you simply say, we disagree with you. You don't go and prosecute someone for their speech. That's how you tamper free speech, and you start putting all of our conversations in darkness, and people have to whisper between the cracks in a fence to their neighbor for fear of a government hearing them because they don't want to be prosecuted for what they say or think, but specifically on what they say. See, words are different than actions. The Democrats, who say far more lunatic, anti-American things, should be the most for free speech just to protect their own lunatic positions. And we shouldn't be interested in taking away their microphone, canceling debate, canceling their ability to speak, or have them fear a lawsuit or going to jail.
Meanwhile, no court has ever actually taken an honest look at the lawsuits that were filed about that election on the other side. And we saw Democrats breaking laws in their states with the ballots. We saw the intel agencies concealing Joe Biden's corruption. Where's the investigation into that? Where's Jack Smith on that? Nobody cares. But Jack Smith says Trump should be in prison for questioning a very questionable election. That's what's scary.
Yeah, they tried to throw President Trump in prison for life with 4 separate bogus indictments. They tried to bankrupt him for nod fraud. They tried to take him off the ballots in Colorado and Maine and elsewhere, and then they tried to take off his head when they underfunded his Secret Service protection. The American people rendered their verdict on November 5th, and I would say to these Democrats who ran this lawfare, lawyer up. Justice is coming.
Yeah, a jury pool of 340 million people.
People have spoken. They see Trump as not guilty. Democrats, they tried to run him up on these fake charges, none of which had any teeth. The few that were left over, they probably would have run with it because they'd still keep their corrupt Department of Justice if they won the election. They could have run with some of that. But they only went after Trump. What made him stand out? Why him? Why are the Democrats, if no one's above the law, why has no Democrat ever been investigated or prosecuted for what they said about denying an election? Simple. They didn't run for president. Trump ran for president. And suddenly, it's not no one is above the law. It's they believe the law only applies to people who are running for office because you can game the system that way and take them off a ballot. And that's an action, that's not speech. Johnny Mag is going to set this next clip up. CIA director nominee John Ratcliffe calls out Adam Schiff. This is incoming CIA director John Ratcliffe. He's being interviewed by Adam Schiff. And so he just now snaps it off back in Adam Schiff's face exactly how he stood against his peers. And that's why he's qualified for this job and ought to get Adam Schiff's vote.
In 2020, when a chairman of an intelligence committee misrepresented that a laptop owned by then candidate Biden's son was somehow a Russian intelligence operation, and 51 former intelligence officials used the imprimatur of IC authority to go along with that, I stood in the breach. I stood alone and told the American people the truth about that. So I think my record in terms of speaking truth to power and defending the intelligence community and its good work is very clear. And what I can assure you is those types of instances, if I'm in that position as CIA director and have to do that again, as uncomfortable as that can be, to be accused, the truth will ultimately defend itself, and I think that that intelligence will as well.
I love that last quote. The truth defends itself. You can lie for a while, and sooner or later you're going to come up against that brick wall of reality, just like what California is facing with the wildfires. They've been lied to all this time. The wildfires are a form of reality, forcing them to pull that mask off. John Ratcliffe, he is a Democrat nightmare, because he's not going to politicize that office. People are seeing across the board that in general, Republicans are more trustworthy with governance and management at being fair. One thing we know about the Democrats, this is a brand that's sticking to them, including right here on social media. If you look at the different platforms, Democrats can't be trusted to be fair. They actually don't believe in blind liberty and justice. They believe in favoring their side and saying their opinion is true and the other side must be prosecuted, punished, and removed from platforms and must be spied on by the FBI. The CIA must give them trash treatment. That all ends with Republicans. It's going to be fair. Democrats will actually be better off under the Republicans too, because it will be fair. Now, here's Marco Rubio warning us about a sea change in that right now we're too dependent on China, and we're about to lose our sovereignty if we don't turn this thing around fast.
If we stay on the road we're on right now, in less than 10 years, virtually everything that matters to us in life will depend on whether China will allow us to have it or not. Everything from the blood pressure medicine we take to what movies we get to watch, and everything in between, we will depend on China for it. They have come to dominate the critical mineral industry supplies throughout the world. Everywhere in the world, they've now established critical mineral rights. Even those who want to see more electric cars, no matter where you make them, those batteries are almost entirely dependent on the ability of the Chinese and the willingness of the Chinese Communist Party to produce it and export it to you. So if we don't change course, we are going to live in a world where much of what matters to us on a daily basis, from our security to our health, will be dependent on whether the Chinese allow us to have it or not. That's an unacceptable outcome.
Marco Rubio, what a great American, and he makes a great point. We outsource all of our dirty work to China. China can strip mine all they want in their own country. They've been set up ports in Africa to do their underage slave wage strip mining. And we won't do that here in the country, but we'll buy their work. We'll buy all of our lithium ion batteries from China for our electric cars. So this is an environmental issue. It's very similar to what's going on in California, just to show how bad Democrat governance is. We have to take control, bring it all into America so that we're more self-reliant, more independent. And China, by the way, when you talked about they're going to determine what films we can see, they fund a ton of American movies. They own Legendary Pictures, which fund all the Superman movies and all that for Warner Brothers. So they're going to start determining we don't want that message because it's offensive to communists. So this is all about stripping out Democrat rule because they have sent America, just like California It is a cultural wildfire, and they're incapable of governing or leading us into the future. Thank God the Republicans are back in control. I'm Doug in exile. Here's another video coming. If you like this one, check this one out.